gentlemen. It's 7:30 on Tuesday evening and time for a reading of the Psalms. I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church, and you are watching our channel where we try to share a sort of thoughtful reading of the scriptures to help you in your journey. We are joined by some people on Zoom. Right now just one, but there'll be some more that will come along. And so how are you, Colette?
Oh, I'm nice and warm.
Good. That's good. Yeah, it's been...
But it hasn't been that way all day, though.
No? Well...
No. I'm in a heated bed with a furry new, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep in it. I feel like a bear. But
Nothing wrong with that. It's bear hibernation time.
I like bears.
Yeah, I do too. I'll tell you, on the way over, I walked over tonight from the house, and there are these two beautiful foxes that have been running through the snow. I mean, they're gorgeous. Sometimes the foxes here are all mangy and skinny. These are beautiful. Their colors are so beautiful. But they are running around chasing each other like wild. And they're big. They're big. Makes me worry a little bit for our cats and our dog. I hope they wouldn't attack them. I don't know. But they're certainly active, I can tell you that.
That's the way I have never had a problem with it. I could shake my finger at them and tell them, you are not a bird, so go away.
Right. And
they'll just turn around and go away.
They come into the bird feeder, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's drawing them to us, because we're feeding a lot of birds in the backyard.
I have never had so many birds as I did today. It was thick, just thick with birds.
Well, it's certainly hard for them to find food when the snow is on the ground.
Right.
And then when it freezes, they can't even peck through the snow, so I think they're glad to get fed. I don't know how it works out there in the wild. I'm glad I don't live out there.
Yeah. Yep, I'm sure glad.
I think tonight we are reading Psalm 36. I think that's right.
I think so, because it was 35 last week.
Last week was 35. I'm going to check to see if there's anybody else here on the Zoom. If there's anybody listening on Zoom, just identify yourself. Yeah, maybe not. No, just you and me so far, Colette.
Okay.
That's okay. I know there's others coming, so. So on Wednesday mornings, are you still going to the Bible study over at your church?
They're not having one just yet. It's not like yours. They have to wait for, I don't know what, but we're not going to be going. But I have something else at 11 o'clock that I always leave at 11.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I just wanted you to know, I know that you leave at 11, so you don't have to feel bad about it. I look over and...
No, but when I get back, I always watch the rest of I have to start from the beginning, so
Right.
I watch the whole program. And because I bothered you last night, I then watched your sermon on Sunday instead.
Oh, okay. Well, that worked out all right then, right? Yeah.
So
I liked the sermon on Sunday. I don't always like my sermon, but I liked that one. So have to confess, it's like sometimes you just don't like it, you know? Hello? Somebody's coming in. Can't see who it is. There it is. It's Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Hello, Barbara. Hello. You're muted. I might be able to. Oh, there you are. You're off. You're off. You
Too
okay?
many things to click.
Well, you made it in.
My eyesight is not that great to find all these hit this, hit that.
Right. Well, you made it in past all the guards.
Oh, jeez. Unbelievable.
And Colette is
Is that-
here. Colette is here with us
Okay.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And you made it to
Debbie
Florida.
should be joining.
I'm here, I'm just out of view.
Yeah. You made it to Florida, okay?
You're
Barbara?
hiding?
Yeah.
You're hiding in plain sight?
Yeah.
I'm getting my refreshments lined up here.
Oh. Okay, you're allowed. So how's the weather, dare I ask?
Yeah, it's nasty. It's nasty. It was we closed school today, and looks like we're going to do a delayed opening tomorrow. We didn't get a lot of snow, but it snowed almost all day, and then it turned to rain, and the rain is
Oh.
freezing. It's very slick on the roads right now. So,
Right, yeah.
but it's just a gray day, and you're in Florida, and the sun was shining, and it was warm, right?
Yeah, it was gray all day today here,
Oh, okay.
also, and yesterday. So I did get one dip in the pool.
Oh,
That's
good.
about it. But it's been raining a lot, which is strange because usually it's in August, September that it rains, and this is the dry season. But what can I tell you?
I don't think.
But it is 70 degrees.
Oh,
so I
that's nice.
can't-
Oh, 70. Oh, man.
No fair.
Oh, that is no fair. What day did you finally arrive there? Did you go on Monday?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my original flight was canceled, so,
Yeah.
but I finally made it.
And you found your car there? Okay, everything was all right with your car?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm still unpacking, but I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
Well,
30, I'm just looking, it's 36.
where? Here?
Um,
No, it's 28 outside here.
no.
Oh, I thought you
Some-
were,
Sorry.
I thought you were talking about the temperature. Yes, it is. It is 36, a meditation on wickedness and loving kindness.
Oh. Well, let's forget the wickedness and just do the loving kindness.
Well, yeah, this psalm doesn't do a bad thing with that. It just talks about wicked people in the beginning, then it talks about the loving kindness of God. It's a short psalm, so we might do 2 tonight.
Okay.
But it's very short, but I think it's beautiful. I don't know. It sort of it sets up and almost introduces the next psalm, which is a psalm of wisdom. And basically that psalm compares the wisdom of kindness and goodness to the foolishness of selfishness and arrogance. So, I don't know. They're both pretty straightforward, and I think
It is true.
yeah, instead of listening to disagree or agree, I think we could listen to these psalms with the idea of being encouraged. That they would come behind us and encourage us in our lives. So that's what I'm used to the psalms doing. Some of them, as we know, just kind of come at us like a boulder, but it's not that way here. So I'm wondering if we should just start. We may not have anybody else with us tonight with the weather so bad outside. people may be occupied elsewhere. So why don't we, Barbara, if you have it in front of you, would you want to read it? Okay, let's go ahead and start.
To the leader of David, the servant of the Lord. Transgression speaks to the wicked deep in their hearts. There is no fear of God before their eyes. For they flatter themselves in their own eyes, that their iniquity cannot be found out and hated. The words of their mouths are mischief and deceit. They have ceased to act wisely and do good. They plot mischief while on their beds. They are set on a way that is not good. They do not reject evil. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your judgments are like the great deep. You save humans and animals alike, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. All people may take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. Oh, continue your steadfast love to those who know you, and your salvation to the upright of heart. Do not let the foot of the arrogant tread on me, or the hand of the wicked drive me away. There the evildoers lie prostrate, are thrust down, unable to rise.
Okay. Anything stand out for you in this one? Oh, there's Judy. While I was looking down reading, I look up and Judy is there. Hi, Judy.
Hello, hello.
Happy to be here with you tonight. How are you?
Yes, good. I'm sorry. We eat dinner late sometimes, so.
It's all right.
Anyway, happy to be here.
We're just glad to have you here. We just finished the reading of Psalm, what number? 30?
36.
36. It was a short,
Okay,
it was a short psalm.
36.
Any reactions or responses?
Oh, I have it.
I like that word steadfast.
Yeah, I do too.
And it's used, 3 times here.
Yeah.
It's an encouraging, inspirational word to me.
Yeah, and along the line of encouraging and inspirational, it struck me that the writer of the psalm says that God delivers both humans and animals.
Right, right.
That's profound, you know. I grew up in a church that always said, you know, dogs don't go to heaven and all the rest of that. It was the whole idea of, you know, of how the only thing that God cares about in the universe is human beings. And that was just the theology of the church that I grew up in. But I'm not there. I am not there. I think that in the same way that our hearts care about the animals and the birds and even some creatures that, I don't know, give me the creeps like snakes and ants and stuff, I think that God cares for all creatures. And there's a wonder to the depth of God's love of the created order. And humans are not the only ones that God delivers or cares for. What do you think? You all agree?
Amen. It's creation.
Yeah.
All of creation.
We love it, and God loves it too. I was telling Colette on my way over, you know, the night is cold, there's crispy snow on the ground, and it's clear in the sky. And as I was walking out of the driveway, this huge fox ran across the end of the driveway and was racing down the road. And then I watched him make his path, and then another one joined him, and the two of them together. And sometimes foxes around here they're horrible looking. They look like they have mange. These two
Yeah.
foxes have beautiful coats. The one has such a beautiful tail, and it comes right down to a bright white tip. It's just absolutely
Oh, how
gorgeous.
beautiful.
It is. It's just gorgeous. And I think, and I hear them out there, and they're calling to each other, they're barking, and they're having their lives, right? They're figuring their lives out. And I want to always be a person who has a big enough humanity in me to think that there's a lot of what we have in our human relationships that are also shared in the animal kingdom. And
I think there's a spirituality about animals. I think they understand a lot too. I know when I had to put my dog down, I talked to somebody, called herself a dog whisperer anyway, and she told me that there are signals that they send back to the people that they love. Yeah. And so it must have been about 3-4 days after I put Passy down. He was a white Havanese. And I turned a corner 3 days later. I don't know what that funny thing did. Oh, maybe it's my phone that's. Maybe that, I don't know. What it is,
it's all right. We can barely hear it, so it's not.
There it is. Maybe that was it. Yes, that was it. Sorry. And I saw this gorgeous white dog standing in the middle of the road, no tag, no nothing, no collar, and beautiful. And my dog was white too. And I stopped because I was really concerned that somebody would run him over. And I went over to pat him, and I had not met him before. He had not met me, and he wagged his tail, and and he was very friendly. And I wanted to take him in the car and take him to the police, so that in the police station, so that if somebody claimed him, he would be safe. He would be with them, and at that point, he must have known he didn't want to go to the police station. He just and he ran away into the woods. But for that few minutes, it was kind of, saying it's a message from Darcy, and he's fine. He's where he should be, and because it looked a lot like him, except that it was bigger. He was bigger. So I think there is a bond and relationship with animals, definitely.
Yeah, I have. I believe that. I mean, I believe there's a bond between humans and animals that we are only partly open to. And I don't get crazy about it. I don't care for people who overstructure it and tell me, what it is and how it works. That's not. I just prefer more of the mystic part of it, of the sense that I can leave it as something I don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah. I do know that in my life, my human relationship, especially with dogs, I've always had a deep bond with dogs, and I don't know. So and it's just comforting to read this. It just seems out of nowhere. Here comes this psalmist who says that God delivers humans and animals too. That God saves animals. I mean, where did that come from? Because you don't see a lot of that in Scripture, but I think it makes perfect sense. God delivers both man. My translation says man and beast, and it's an extension of God's loving kindness. Barbara said earlier she likes the word steadfastness. I like this big compound word of loving kindness. It's a great big word, and it's wonderfully applied to God.
Yeah.
It's not enough just to say God is kind. It's not enough just to say God is loving, but that God has loving kindness. And at least as I'm thinking about it, it talks about human beings who are committed to living, I don't know the word, evil or transgressing ways. People who are committed to living against the health and well-being of other people. They go through their lives without regard to others. They're self-centered and they're only worried about themselves. They're here in the world, and the psalmist knows about them, but as he describes the condition of the world, people who live that way, I mean, there's no hellfire and brimstone here. It just says that people who live that way are foolish. They're just foolish because they're missing out on the best of what life is. The best of what life is to live in kindness and in generosity and in fairness and in justice to everyone else in the world. And so I find it almost like it's like an encouragement. It's not a judgment, it's just an encouragement. And it doesn't go overboard in talking about how terrible are the wicked people, or doesn't talk about the punishment of the wicked people, but it just says, it's almost like a beckoning. Come on, look around you. Look around you in life and see that, the best things in life really are not there because you're overloaded with wealth or because you have more than everybody else. The best things in life come because you live into the generosity and the sharing and the goodness of life. That's what it means to be, fully human and fully alive.
I also like the word refuge, and I guess I've never connected that until recently, that refuge and refugee.
Oh, right.
Refuge is something, and it's also the visual, I think it's line 7, is it? All people may take refuge in the shadow of your wings. I have a statue of Christ with his arms out, and I'm thinking that the vision, the visual look of God with wings and encompassing and taking refuge in the arms of God is quite inspiring also.
It's beautiful. And I hadn't made the link between refuge and refugee. I mean, refugees are people who are seeking shelter, right? They're seeking protection and shelter in this world. And, it's just, it opens my mind, the stories that I've been hearing. Sometimes I don't want to hear them, but I hear them. The mother and the 2 children that drowned in the Rio Grande River, trying to make their way across the river, and there was no one to rescue them. And human beings, we seek refuge. We want to be someplace where we feel safe, and that's true of every human being. Every living human being has the same desire. And you think about how many situations in the world there are where there is no refuge. There's no refuge in this world for so many people, whether it's the burning sun of the desert, or whether it's the monsoon and flooding rains, or whether it's disease. But look at, like Barbara said, just listen to these beautiful verses of Scripture that, that human beings, not tall humans or rich humans or white humans or black humans, but human beings find refuge in the shadow of God's wings. It is such a beautiful description. And he even says, how precious, how valuable is God's loving kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Which psalm are we reading? Sorry, I came in so late.
Oh, sorry, Debbie. I usually make sure we catch somebody up. It's 36. It's
Okay.
36. It's a very short psalm, only 13 verses, but it's filled with some I don't know. I think some great encouragements.
I'm listening to you speak, and it just sounds like it's a lovely psalm. And yeah,
There's also another phrase in it that I don't know. Again, there's times where I feel like these psalms, or especially the Isaiah passages, become like hardened hammers that just beat upon us, and I think to no avail. The threats and all of the incantations of God's anger, but this part here, verse 4 says this human being who flatters himself too much in his own eyes to find his iniquity and to hate it. He can't even, this person, this hypothetical person, is so full of his own flattery, he can't see his faults. He can't even see them enough to hate them. Like if he could see himself, or if she could see herself the way she really is living in the world, she would hate herself, or he would hate himself, but can't even do that. Then it says, the words of this person's mouth are wickedness and deceitfulness. Okay. But here's a little bit of a, they say a true liberal, is always looking into the life of the axe murderer and trying to find out what happened to them that made them that way, because, and this verse seems to me to be heading in that wonderful direction. The words of his mouth are wickedness and deceitfulness. Listen to this state of his being. He has given up being wise and doing good. He's given up being wise and doing good. And to me, that's a powerful statement of understanding, even as he's being described as a person of wickedness and vain self-deceit, who can no longer see God and can't even imagine that God is present for accountability. But this statement about this person is they have given up being wise. And they devise wickedness upon their bed. They lay awake at night and devising schemes of wickedness. And then they set themselves on a path. And look how direct and how wonderfully plain. They set themselves on a path that is not good. It's just real simple. And they do not reject what is wrong. I don't know. It may be, I don't know, it may be too much to talk about in Bible study, but that verse 5, he devises the wickedness upon his bed. In the Christian fundamentalist sort of instruction to teenagers, this is where they argue that masturbation among young men is wrong, because they say that verse right there is referencing to a young man lying on his bed devising evil. So there you have it. The Bible says masturbation is wrong. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm mocking a little bit. But
Well, when I read that, I'm thinking that it's just like, what does our mind, before we do things that are wrong, we first have to plot it in our minds to figure out what it is we're going to do. And that's what I was just thinking of, the mental brokenness, I guess.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, because that is, and when I got of age to be able to think for myself about this, and I think, oh my goodness, really? You turn this into a sexual reference? This is about the actually devising mean acts towards someone else.
Right.
That is what people do. That's what bullies do. That's what bullies do when they go home from school. They think about the week and how they're going to torment them when they get to school the next day.
right.
And they lie awake at night. There's you know, there's a colloquialism that's like, I don't know, they must lie awake at night and think of these things, right?
Yeah.
So there it is. How do they come up with these things to do, to torment, and yet there is such, I don't know what it is with me with this psalm. There's such a simplicity that says, oh my goodness, you could be lying awake at bed planning good things for other people. You could be devising ways of kindness and how you're going to surprise the world the next day with your own creativity and ingenuity about how you're going to, help somebody along. I don't know, it just seems very matter of fact. It's not full of a lot of judgment and threat. It just says, take a good look at this, human beings.
I always think in terms of, well, I'm nice to people. I say nice things to people. But I think of Jimmy Carter and lusting in your heart, but do I always think nice things of people? And is that so great? If your mindset is that negativity all the time about, well, what this person does wrong or that person does wrong or you do wrong, the negativity really gets into your mind that, things are always bad.
Yeah, and it can consume you. And that's
Right.
the description, I think, in the beginning. The transgression belongs to the wicked person. It is in the midst of their heart. There is no fear of God before their eyes because they can't see anything except the wrong.
Right?
If they're going to lie in bed and make plans for torment for somebody else or extorting somebody else, it's got to come from somewhere. There's a broken heart in there, that has lost sight of the goodness that underlies all of life. And it's a celebration of God's, oh Lord, your loving kindness is in the heavens, and your faithfulness reaches to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the marvelous mountains, and your judgment like the mighty deep. You deliver both humans and beasts. And how precious is your loving kindness, O God. Now there's something to lie on your bed and think about. And then thinking about that, imagine what kinds of actions follow from a meditation on this incredible, loving, and full of kindness God. What could follow? What kind of human actions could follow from meditation on that? I don't imagine you're going to have to go out and repay evil for evil. Not after a meditation on that kind of an awareness of the height of the mountains and the beauty of the clouds, all expressing God's mercy and loving kindness.
The comments in my Bible are verses 1 through 5. The self-centered individual is contrasted with the God-centered world.
Yeah, it's almost showing a contrast between if you're going to live self-centered and you're going to live selfishly, you're not going to find a place in this world. You're not. Because it's like you're living in the town of mercy and grace, and you're Mr. Stingy. It's like you're not going to find a home here. You're not going to find a place where you feel like you belong, because your actions, when you live that way, don't belong in God's universe. They don't belong here. They don't fit in. So yeah, there's a contrast between the self-centered person and, I would say, the selfless centeredness of God.
Mm. Mm.
And it goes on in the end, towards the end in verse 10 or 9, whichever you're counting it. For with you is the fountain of light. In your light, we shall see light. So if we can begin to hitch our wagons to the foundational structures of the world, which is loving kindness and grace and mercy, helping each other, living life in a way that seeks to provide aid and shelter and refuge for human beings, the light of life is going to shine on us. We're going to start to see life like we've never seen it before.
Yeah, as opposed to the self-centered people who are living only for themselves. In the end, down here, the last couple of verses, the very last one, there the evildoers lie prostrate. They are thrust down, unable to rise.
Right.
How very sad that you could choose to live like that rather than choosing a God-centered life where, those verses are so beautiful about seeking refuge in the Lord and seeing light and being, looking upward instead of being prostrate on your bed or on the ground, where you're not able to see anything other than yourself. It's too bad.
Yeah, and to me, look how restrained the psalmist is in this one. He says, I don't know what word is in on your translations, but it says, now I'm reading from the last verse, the workers of wickedness. It says this word, they were desolated. It doesn't say they were burned in a fire or their feet were cut off or their heads were rolled down the hill. It says they were desolated. Their lives become desolate experiences. And such an appeal here to everyone. They were desolated, they fell down, and they were thrown down and unable to rise.
It's like cut off from God. It's worse than hell. I mean, you are on your own, and it's really, this is a wonderful psalm.
I think it's
that
beautiful.
It doesn't say you're going to burn 1,000
No.
times. You don't have to. Just being separated from God is hell itself, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to look more into that word desolated, but I like it. I mean, I think it's a great way of describing. I mean, I don't know why, but I'm thinking about a classroom full of teenagers, that you might speak to, and just to say, look, let me make a common sense appeal to you about life. Can I just tell you a little bit about what life really is? I know you think you know already, or maybe you don't, or maybe you don't care, but can I just give you this map? Can I just say to you, here's a few guidelines, here's a few pathways that if you walk on them, the roads are going to fold open in front of you and the light is going to come on and you're going to be able to live a life that at the end of your life you're going to be really, really proud of. But if you turn and get to the point where you don't know your own brokenness and you don't care about it and you seek the quicker solutions of life that come from greed and from power over other people, it's not going to be long at all till you're going to be, I love it, desolated. You're going to be alone inside your own skin. And there'll be no one to show loving kindness toward you because you'll be cut off from all of that. No need.
Are those people aware? Are they aware? And does it matter? And I guess I'm thinking so much of, although these words were written so many years ago, of what we're living today. And just picking up a newspaper today. And one wonders, does it matter to those people that they're separated from God?
Yeah, and I don't think they feel that. I think what they're saying is, this phrase goes around a lot. Like I'm turning 69 this year, and people say, oh well, 70 is the new 50, right? 70's the new 50. Well, I want to say that phrase here because these people that the psalmist is talking about are saying greed is the new kindness, and selfishness is the new way to the pathway of life, and they're sold on that. So yes, do I hear echoes of the kinds of bid for the mind of human beings that are in the world today? Oh, I do. I think the appeal is powerful and strong, and technology has helped to amplify it, and we paint it in beautiful pictures that somehow the desire to take care of yourself and to turn away from caring about anybody else is really the pathway to wholeness of life. It's and the psalmist says that those people, they don't even know of their own brokenness. They don't even know of their own callousness. They can't even see it. And they have no fear at all, or a thought or worry about a world that is made by a God full of loving kindness that wants to provide shelter and refuge for everyone.
And yet some of them do. Some of them live public lives and private lives.
Yeah.
And it's the new norm with this group of people. And it seems to be spreading. And how do you combat it? How do you, counteract it? I don't know.
Well, how much of it is anger and lashing out and blaming? Someone has to have done this to me.
You're right. Yeah.
And
Well, yes, that's what we hear all the time now. For me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is this mantra of, I've had something taken away from me. I've been denied something that I deserve. I'm being taken advantage of. And I think it's a shame that they're able to borrow that language from the underprivileged. It's just a shame that you can co-opt that language in this very much developed world with people who have very few real struggles or suffering, and then use that language as if it's their own. There really are people who are suffering in the world. They really are suffering, and they're not so far away sometimes. But we hear their stories, and then all of a sudden you have people who, to me, are suffering from the lavish lifestyle they have, and they still describe it as being deprived. I mean, I'm not. Somebody was saying. Here's something that's close to it as an example. I was sitting in a diner and overheard this conversation between two people when the lottery was like, I don't know, $800 million. And they were talking about the lottery. And one man said, I just don't know. I don't know what would happen to me if I were to win the $800 million lottery. And the other man said, I'm never even going to play that game. Because, when you win $800 million, they take $400 million from you and as taxes. And can you imagine? They would take $400 million and I'm sitting with my back to this conversation, and I'm like, sit down, don't say a word, But this man, and this isn't the first time I've heard this, that they have developed a language of deprivation and of suffering that would come from having to receive $400 million instead of $800 million.
right.
How do you do that? How do you devise that? I can't. We have incredible capability as human beings to describe ourselves as suffering in the middle of our lavish riches. And then think of the opposite of that. The number of people that I have met in my lifetime who, from my point of view, don't have much. They don't have much. They I don't know, it's a little bit less than even going from paycheck to paycheck. They depend upon good circumstances that come along to help them to make it through. And yet they think they have a lot. They experience it as living this life in a bounty, so that when the sun comes up and it's a beautiful day, they feel like they've won the lottery.
Well, they recognize the bounty in this world. As long as you have enough to eat, not more than enough, you just need enough.
Right.
If you have shelter, I think you're right. I think a lot of people in that situation with just enough
Yeah.
find it easier to share their just enough than the people who have more than enough.
Yes.
There's something wealth does to you. It just distorts reality.
It does. And then I think along that same line, there's this weird mystical principle that if you're the person, you're sitting on the park bench and you have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you're really hungry and you have a small bag of potato chips and something to drink, and you're sitting there and you're thinking about how fortunate you are that you have enough for today. You're not going to be hungry. And then you look over and you realize the person sitting there has nothing. Now all of a sudden, the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 happens right there. Because you take your sandwich and you divide it in half, you take half of your drink and you give it to the other person, and all of a sudden, it's not the food that fills you, it's the experience of life. It fills you. You now have abundance in the place of scarcity. So what was just enough, when it's here's the crazy principle, right? You do the math. When it's just enough, and you divide it in half and give the half away, you now have more than enough. How does that happen? How does that happen? But it's true. It is true. I wish I could remember it more often. Because I still go through my life pretty much still seeing myself as a person who will never have enough, and on and on and on, and striving for more and hoping to get more and whatever. Oh, I get so exhausted from those foolish ideas. And so energized when I feel like God brings to me the experiences and the places where I can do that thing, where I can divide what I have in half and discover that it was twice the amount that I thought it was.
So shared abundance is very fulfilling.
Yeah, shared abundance actually is multiplied abundance.
Yes.
Because actually, if you use the word sufficiency, shared sufficiency becomes abundance. If you have enough, and you see that you have enough, but you don't get fixed on that, and then you share it, then what was just sufficient, what was just enough, now becomes abundance because you have the experience of having helped someone else. I believe that's a principle built into life. It's built into the very nature of life because that is who God is. That's who God is.
It certainly should give you a better feeling sharing something rather than seeing somebody who has less and trying to hide what you have
Yes.
and be anxious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it creates a feeling that's unlike any other feeling. Sheer abundance. Yeah.
And I think, just as I'm sitting here, I think that sometimes you'll get a glimpse of this in children. We often think that children are selfish by nature and that they have to be taught generosity and sharing and all that. I don't really think that's true. I think when children look in their hands and they see that they have something next to someone who doesn't, I think children have a natural God-given sense in this life of sharing their food with someone else. I mean, they do. Now, maybe it's only just their parent. My kids used to try to share their food with me all the time. And I'd be like, no, you eat the food. No.
They'll share their vegetables with you.
Yeah,
But
happily
not
share
the
their
candy.
vegetables. Right. Happily share their vegetables.
The asparagus.
But there's such joy in children when they see an adult and they have an opportunity to share what they have with an adult. There's joy in them.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if the adult is humble enough to say yes, thank you, and participate in the experience, I don't know. I think that's one of the lights. It's talk about it here somewhere that when we live this way, a light shines. Yeah, verse 10. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we shall see light. And so we discover something about this world. We discover something about, I don't know, the unseen but unmistakable trait of God, which is built into life. It's there.
And then we're being godlike.
Yeah.
And we're being children of God when
Yes. Yes, when we find a way to use our wings to create shelter for others. And then that's how the world learns about what God is like, and we get it reinforced to us. We do it, and we discover, wow, we've just tapped into a force of nature. We've tapped into a force of the way life is supposed to be. And we deprive ourselves over and over and over again of the opportunity to do that. We do. Prolong your loving kindness to those who know you, and your righteousness to the upright of heart. May the foot of the proud not come against me, and the hand of the wicked not drive me away. So there's still some sense that, this way of life doesn't make you invincible.
Okay.
It does not at all. So there's still the petition to God to say, now God, don't
Protect me.
Protect me, right? Because it is a vulnerable way to live.
Mm-hmm.
But the payoff is discovering the rhythm of the created life, of God's world. Because it's tapping into the very pulse of God's heart in the world. Loving kindness. What a concept. Confucius said that the real lessons of life are they're moving in a current around us, and they keep coming back to us. And so if you don't learn it the first time, don't worry, it'll come back around again, and it'll keep coming around again until you learn it. And then you'll forget it, and you have to learn it again, and you have to learn it again. Thus are the really great, important discoveries of life, because we learn them and then we forget them. We fall back into our foolish ways. And I'm just speaking for me. I know it's not like that for any of you.
Of course not. You're perfect.
That's right. You're
That's why you're the leader.
yeah, you're just here to encourage me. Well, what do you want to do? Shall we go on to the next psalm? It's a long one.
Yeah, why not?
All right, let's do it. And I
I
think
hope it's not going to bring us down.
No. Well, I don't know. I think you'll see. I think that my sense of this psalm is now, this psalm says living in the way of God is wise, and living in the way of evil is foolish. And so to me it's sort of an expanding of the psalm we just read, but some of it is very specific language. All right, who's going to read?
I'll read. My notes say it's an exhortation to courage and endurance.
Great. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And this says of David,
Yes.
do not fret because of the wicked. Do not be envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass, and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so you will live in the land and enjoy security. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. He will make your vindication thine shine like the light, and the justice of your cause like the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, ever those who carry out evil, over those who carry out evil, serve devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. For the wicked shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look diligently for their place, they will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the earth and delight themselves in abundant prosperity. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bows to bring down the poor and needy, to kill those who walk uprightly. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. Better is a little that the righteous person has than the abundance of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the days of the blameless, and their heritage will abide forever. They are not put to shame in evil times. In the days of famine, they have abundance. But the wicked perish, and the enemies of the Lord are like the glory of the pastures. They vanish like smoke, they vanish away. The wicked borrow and do not pay back, but the righteous are generous and keep giving. For those by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those cursed by him shall be cut off. Our steps are made firm by the Lord when he delights in our way. Though we stumble, we shall not fall headlong, for the Lord holds us by the hand. I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, or their children begging bread. They are ever giving liberally and lending, and their children become a blessing. Depart from evil and do good, so you shall abide forever. For the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake the faithful ones. The righteous shall be kept safe forever, but the children of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land and live in it forever. The mouths of the righteous utter wisdom, and their tongues speak justice. The law of their God is in their hearts. Their steps do not slip. The wicked watch for the righteousness and seek to kill them. The Lord will not abandon them to their power, or let them be condemned when they are brought to trial. Wait for the Lord and keep to his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the land. you will look on the destruction of the wicked. I have seen the wicked oppressing and towering like a cedar of Lebanon. Again I passed by, and they were no more. Though I sought them, they could not be found. Mark the blameless, and behold the upright, for there is a posterity for the peaceable. But transgressors shall be altogether destroyed. The posterity of the wicked shall be cut off. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their refuge in the time of trouble. The Lord helps them and rescues them. He rescues them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. I just feel that so much of that can very easily be interpreted very differently. I'm thinking of the prosperity gospel, but yet I think if you look at it, as Debbie said, that it's to be away from God and to not feel God's presence is the worst thing that could happen to someone. And this is when people are doing bad things, that they feel they're not connected to God. And I think that's what it's talking about, rather than they're all going to, get punished. The punishment is not being with God.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that is it. I think I don't know that the prosperity gospel preachers would use this text, because if you read it and you read what it's saying, it's not promising a pie in the sky. It's not promising an easy life. It's saying, in the end, the good life, the deep life, is the life with God. And those that seek the more superficial life, which is instant prosperity or power or fame, yeah, they look big today. But, take a few steps, turn around and look back, and you'll see they're gone. They disappear. They have no stay. And it talks about their children, because your children, of course, is how you live on in the world. And basically, the psalmist is saying, if you want a life that is established, that has content, that has depth and meaning and purpose, then look to the ways of God. Look to the way to live in this life, caring for your neighbor and in generosity and hope. And again, I'm so frustrated because of the reductionism of the fundamentalist gospel that taught, you can't earn your way into heaven, so don't worry about doing good works. Just pray the prayer of salvation and let Jesus become your Lord and Savior, and then you're in. And it's not do this to get into heaven. It's live this way, because this is life. This is life with this God who made this world. This is life. And anybody who tells you anything different is lying to you and is deceiving you about the nature of wealth or of possessions or of power. It's all deception. You'll never find meaning in life in that way.
I like verse 7. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, over those who carry out evil devices. It's saying, we realize how you are going to feel, but be patient.
Yes.
Patient in God. Wait upon God. God will be there for you. Just don't give up.
Yeah. Yes, the great, what a great spiritual discipline it is to wait upon the Lord. Mm-hmm. To wait upon God. Don't be caught up. It goes on to say, don't be caught up in angry expressions and things that are all you're ranting and raving. Just easy. Because the evil will be cut off, but those that hope in the Lord shall inherit the land. It's, there's so many beautiful phrases in here, in this psalm. I made a mark in my text about verse 16. The little bit that the righteous have is better than the abundance of the wealth of wicked people. Just think about what it's saying. You know, you're better off to have a little bit and to have it in a way that you can feel good about, and that, you know, than to have a whole lot and know that you got it somehow through deceit or through trickery and treachery. The one that has a little actually has more.
Yeah. I think there's a tendency in human nature, if you have too much, you have more than you need.
Yeah.
Most of your time is spent trying to hold on to it in some way or another, and you just lose the beauty of having enough. I mean, why do you need more than enough? You end up having to take out insurance policies on stuff because you can't see it all at the same. You know, it's like, I don't know. Never having been wealthy, I don't think I'm going to have to suffer from that. But I think you get more anxious of your possessions the more you have. And that's got to be an awful way to live, really. Like, to feel if you lost some material possession, your life would be so diminished that it wouldn't be worth living. Well, this psalmist says, no, that's not the way. You know, have trust in God, and that's the way that you will feel abundance.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel the sufficiency and the abundance of God. There's nothing wrong with that. That's built into us. But the question is, how do we get there?
I often think about when they say, if there was a fire or a flood, what would you grab to take with you? And I never can figure out what possession would, you know, I'm not saying I don't have some connection to possessions, but I don't know what, because I know that most of the, you know, when I'm gone, most of my possessions will be in landfill somewhere, you know. But, you know, I can't think about stuff in that way.
I have a story that jumps into my mind about, it was a long time ago now, but my dad had a cottage. He had built a cottage along the Delaware River, and when I was teaching his school, he let me live in that cottage along the river. And the Delaware River, if you don't know it, because unless you live along it, you don't understand the relationship to this river. It goes very, very low in low water time, and when the rains come, like they've been coming recently, it becomes monstrously full of water. And those cottages were built, I don't know, back in the early 30s, and they're along the shore. But there were times when the water would come up in a night. Like we had one night we built a campfire out on the rocks because the river was so low. We went to bed, and I was awakened to the sound of my neighbor banging on my door and telling me that the river had come up, and the river was actually flowing through the basement of the house I was in. Yeah. So I got out of the house, you know, I got my dog, and I got out of the house, and I got in the backyard, which was a little higher, and I stood with this neighbor who had awakened me, and his name was John. They called him John the Bishop, but he was a wise old man in that little community. And the sun was coming up, it was getting bright, and all the way at the end, there was a young family. They had 2 kids, and they were living, and that house was lower, and we realized that they were cut off. And so we helped each other. We made a human chain, and we got into that house and helped that. The woman was pregnant. She had 2 little kids. She was in that house all by herself. And so we made a chain, and we got them out. We carried out the babies and helped the woman get to everybody was safe. But after everybody was up on the shore, the community decided that we should go into that house where that woman and her kids live, and we should start saving some of the things because it looked like her house was going to go. And she had a dock and her husband had a boat out there. And so they're making plans for how they're going to go in and risk their lives for these things, right? And with that, my friend John the bishop, he turns to me and he says, he knew I was in seminary, or I was a youth pastor at a church. And so they called him John the bishop and they called me Lou the pastor. And so John turns to me and he goes, "Pastor, could you please just explain to them that those are just possessions, and their lives will not be diminished when their possessions are gone. But if somebody drowns trying to save possessions, then we're all a bunch of fools." And I will never forget the force. I mean, he wasn't always a big talkative person, but the force with which he was saying, what in the world is wrong with us? Don't risk your life for possessions. It's not worth it. But, I'm not sure if he hadn't been there, I probably would have risked my life for them and felt like I was doing something really good. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been worth it. So, as I said, this psalm, I don't know, these two seem to pair up, don't you think? The shorter psalm and its
They're
wisdom.
saying the same thing.
They are.
Yeah.
With beautiful, beautiful words and encouragements to us in our life. The little the righteous have is better than the abundant wealth of the wicked. Wow. That's amazing. You can't buy a good life. You can't. You can be a good person and have wealth, but you can't make yourself into a good person by accumulating wealth. Well, that's the lesson will be floating around in my river till I learn it.
Well,
That's good.
All right. I believe that'll do us for tonight. Thank
That
you.
was great.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing this time with me. Thank you for joining in, those of you online. We seem to have about 5 or 6 regular viewers who manage to listen in and follow along with our expressions. And I don't know, that's kind of a neat mystery. I don't know who they are, but they're pretty regular, so I'm glad for that. All right, I'll say good night to you, my friends.
Buddy.
Stay warm.
All right. Yes, thank you. From the Floridian in 70-degree weather.
exactly now.
I know. All right.
Oh, it's going to be 66 of a high tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay.
keep your coat
We'll
on.
be lucky we get to 16, I think.
Yeah, right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Take care. Thank you.
And good night to you. Goodbye. Thank you for joining in this time of study and